So we're going to start proceedings on the floor and taking a wide kneed child's pose. So I'm just going to sit down slowly, stretch out the ankles a little bit, take a little bit of weight into the wrists before we get down, so we can kind of rock a little bit from side to side. Get a little bit of a finger stretch going on. Don't need to do this bit. This is me just not having my mat quite in the right place. And then when you're ready, we'll take it nice and deep, long spine, stretching the arms a little. Start with the hands wider than the shoulders, walk them as far forward as you can, so you definitely feel the armpits stretching out. If you can, very lightly press the hands into the floor, but stretch out those fingers and digits all the way from the tip of your fingers down to the heel of the hand. Everyone's getting a nice stretch. And we'll slowly lift back up. And we'll come more onto all fours into that tabletop position. Just press the shoulders away. So starting to round into the upper back a little bit. And then cat-cow, draw the chest forwards. Exhaling it out. And we'll come into a neutral spine and take it into melting heart. So taking the hands forwards, keeping the hips over the knees, we slide the fingers out, ease ourselves down. We're trying to keep a straight line between the fingers, shoulders and the hips. So we're not letting ourselves collapse in here. We're actually pressing into the hands a little bit, using strength in the shoulders so we don't sit completely into the joints, drawing the belly in. Tailbone back a little. Now, there is a deeper version of this where we simply let the spine lengthen and compress into the upper back. This is a slightly different version. This is the still stretching out down the sides of the body. It's more of a lat stretch, core coordination, pressing the shins into the floor lightly. One more breath here. And then walk the fingers back, so you start to shift the weight backwards first, and then lift up when it feels a little safer and more controlled. The hands still towards the front of the mat, and nicely spread out. We'll tuck the toes underneath and come into the down dog. Let's walk that out gently. You don't have to walk your down dog out. Just I find that first one in the morning probably the nicest way to come into the down dog. Oh, yawned it away. And then we'll start to walk the feet in towards the front of the mat, so keeping the feet hip distance apart and as parallel as you can make whilst you're walking. You're probably going to toe in and toe out a little bit as you do this, gradually taking the hips higher and higher. The heels will progressively get closer to the floor. It gets trickier and trickier to straighten the legs out. Eventually you have to come up onto the fingertips to bring yourself right into the front of the mat. Take a little breath here, bring the hands onto the shins, come up halfway. Exhale down. Come up onto the shins again. Exhale down. One more time onto the shins. And exhale down. This time bring the hands onto the hips. Lengthen the spine forwards. Lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Just to shake it out a little bit. And then bring the hands back in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Sweep the arms out wide. Lengthen the chest forwards. Draw ourselves up. So it's a little bit like a reverse swan dive. Exhaling down. Lifting the thighs. Swooping the arms out wide. Lengthen the chest and lift. Just tiny little bend in the knees. So we take the strain out the back of the legs, or out of the knee joints, more importantly. And I'll bring the hands in towards the heart. Exhaling down. Going to take a lunge on the right side. So just taking the right foot back, deep to the back of the mat. Letting that back knee down. Take a little breath from here. Bring the hands onto that front thigh. Allow ourselves to lift up. Draw the hands in towards the heart again, elbows wide. Rotate to the left. Rock the elbow to the outside. And then lift the chest as you press into the heel and a hand, drawing the belly in. Look to the side if you can. Press the back shin down into the floor. And then to breathe evenly. Now ease the hands down to the floor again and step it into that forward fold. So just tucking the toe on the back, underneath onto the fingertips. Push off the toes into the forward fold and set in deep. Sweep the arms out wide again as we lift up. Hands into the heart. Exhale down, and we'll take that lunge to the left side. So as you come in, slide the foot back, lower the knee, and tuck the toes, bring the hands onto the front thigh to lift up gently. Find your balance, draw the belly in a little bit, bring the hands in towards the heart, elbows wide, rotate to the right. Lengthen through. Lift the chest. I'm going to press into the shin just a little bit. Help you feel your inner thigh on the back leg a little more as well. And helps just balance out all into that front leg. And we'll bring the hands down to the floor. Tap the toes on the back. Press out through the back heel. Push off the toes into the forward fold, sitting deep. Sweep the arms out wide, inhale up. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. We'll step back into down dog. Make sure we're happy with our hand position. We'll come into a plank as we breathe in. Come into half plank as we push into the toes. Bootlaces change. Take our up dog. Use the hip muscles to lift up into our down dog. Take a little breath here. Walk the hands towards the toes. Into a forward fold. And simply bring the hands onto the hips. Soften the knees a little to lift up. Shake it all out. Walk up to the front of the mat. Rotate hands high. Breath in. Hands through the heart and exhale down to the floor. So draw the belly in, lift the thighs. Hands come down to the ground. Again, we step back into our down dog. And I'm going to bring the toes onto the center line of the mat. We're going to come into a pigeon pose. So I'm going to draw the left knee into the chest. Hold it there for a moment in down dog. Foot is flexed. And then come forwards on the inhale of your breath. Take the knee to the outside of the tricep, heel underneath the groin, and then slide the knee down the back of the arm. And ease your right foot away to lift the chest, drawing the belly in. We'll tuck the toes underneath and move back into that down dog. So lift the knee first, roll the shoulders back, press into the hands, strengthen and set up the shoulder girdle before we lift, and then bring the toes back together on the center line. And we draw the right knee in towards the chest in our down dog. Squeeze, keep the foot flexed, toes spread. I just want to check that your heel of the standing foot is pointing backwards. You're not rolling around on that too much. One more long breath here. And then when we inhale, we come forwards into the plank. Slow. Take the knee out. Draw the heel under. Slide it down. Ease the left foot back. Draw the belly in a little bit. Lift shoulders. Roll chest towards the sky. If in fact you're even able to roll the chest, maybe you can roll the shoulders and lift the chest. Maybe it's the other way around. So in this version, we're pressing the entirety of the back leg very lightly into the floor and lengthening out. So I can feel the cheeks on the left leg, the rear leg, just starting to engage and lift a little bit. So a bit like Mary Berry, we don't look after soggy bottoms well in our class. I'm feeling a little bit of length develop in the body as we keep lifting and lengthening out. And then we can tuck the toes on the back foot again, draw the knee away from the floor. Roll the shoulders back, lift gently into our down dog. This time the feet are hip distance apart. Walking the hands again towards the back of the mat. And then bringing the hands onto the hips, lengthening to lift up and shaking it all out to come up to the front of the mat again. Feet are hip distance apart and parallel, hands into the heart. We take a breath in. Exhale down. Going to lunge on the right side again. Take the breath in. Slide the right foot back. Untuck the toes, hands come onto that thigh again, we lift. This time we're going to take the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers. Draw the hands towards the back of the mat, lift the chest. Keep the belly drawn in a fraction. See if you can let your eyes follow where your heart is pointing, which generally is towards the gap between the ceiling and the wall. Squeeze the shoulder blades together a little bit to help give a little more space. If you can bring the heel of the hands together, that's great. If that doesn't happen, not the end of the world. One more breath. Release. Hands to the floor. Tuck the toe on the back. Press out through the heel. Step it forwards. Shoot the arms out wide. Breath to the sky. And second side. Exhaling down. And left foot back. Knee to the floor. Getting the hands onto the front thigh. Check the knee starts at least over the ankle. Might not stay there, but it starts there. Hands come behind. Interlace. Draw up. Heart and eyes follow. And then we can release down to the floor. Tuck toe on the back foot. Press off the toes. Into that forward fold. Scoot the arms out wide. Lift the chest, breathing in high. Hands into the heart, exhaling down and stepping back into plank. And from plank, we'll just bring the knees down, narrow hip spacing, untucking the toes, taking child's pose again, stretching the arms out, and then walking the hands together towards the center line of the mat. And when your thumbs touch, see if you can bring the palms of the hands together and just lengthen out some nice straight arms. Head dropping in between the gap. Hopefully, there's a gap. By design, a little trickier to breathe in the narrow version, so we breathe a little more into the ribs. And then we take a little breath to lift up. Bring the hands back onto the front of the mat. Lift up onto all fours. Roll the shoulders back, tuck the toes underneath. Lift the knees away from the ground. So back into that nice down dog. And we'll take a scissor dog. So we're going to take the right leg to the sky. Lengthen out through the toes a little bit, keeping the hips square to the ground. And then we'll bring that foot down to the floor And take our 3 breaths on the left side. So the lifted leg feels like it's doing some work, but undeniably a bigger stretch into the standing leg as the heel gets a little closer to the floor with all that weight that it's bearing. And bringing that foot down, we'll float into a plank and the breath in. Let the knees come down to the floor. So make an effort to make sure the knees are underneath the hips and the hands are underneath the shoulders. We'll take the right arm up to the sky on the breath in, out to the side, and then float that under and just drop shoulder and ear down to the floor. Take a breath here as we land, press into the ground to lift back up, and fold it back under. We'll do that 3 more times. So it's still quite a slow breath, hopefully, and full. The last lift, all the way under, and then back into tabletop. And then we'll take the left to the sky, open it up wide, roll it down gently. So quite a big stretch on the ribs, opening out to the side early in the morning. And one final lift to the sky. And bring it back to all fours. Take a little breath. And we're going to use the block. So spin the feet out to the side. Just sitting back. And then the legs lengthen out into Dandasana. So Dandasana, the feet are together. Toes flex back and up towards the sky. And spread. Draw the tummy muscles in, press the sitting bones down, roll the shoulders back a little bit. Think about the whole of the spine, including the head, in terms of its position. So trying to lengthen these front thighs and hip flexors towards the front of the mat. In this position with the feet flexed, there is a tendency for the thighs to lift up. So we're trying to get them to move away in a less natural inclination that they have. We'll take this into seated twist, so we'll drop the left leg under and out. Bring the right foot over, close into the body so the foot is to the floor, knee is high. Just tilt the pelvis out a little bit further forward so you get that little bit of lift in the spine from the base. Take the left hand up, rotate round. Try and relax the bottom leg a little bit. And we can release it from there, take it to the second side. So legs lengthen out. And then we bring that right foot underneath. check your knee is pointing forwards on the bent leg, and the hips and the knee are all pointing in the same direction. Take that right arm up as we draw the pelvis forwards a little bit and bring us across. Looking over the rear shoulder. And coming back to the face the front. We'll lift off of the block, well, more of a slide than a lift, I have to be honest, and just take that out to the side. We're going to take the reverse tabletop, so we'll take the hands behind, about shoulder distance apart. Squeeze the shoulders back a little bit so the chest lifts and the belly draws in, and then bring the feet about hip distance apart, soles of the feet onto the floor. Going to lift the bottom off the ground, draw it forwards, lift the hips up towards the sky, keep the thighs parallel, chin in towards chest, press the shoulders down towards the floor. So they're not rounding up around the body, you're actually still kind of opening the front of the chest even more. Take a little breath from here. Lower the bottom to the ground. Slide it back. And let ourselves sit up into that Dandasana. Lean back. Draw the feet in. Lift the bottom. Travel forwards. Lift. And hold. Remember to breathe. And then we'll lower down gently. And bring ourselves right down to the floor. By easing the body down gently. You want to have your block relatively close to you and arms out wide. We'll bring the heels in towards the bottom. Let the shoulders lengthen out a little bit. And then we'll take the legs gently over to the left. Lengthen the hips away. And we'll draw the knees back again. And let ourselves roll over to the second side. And we'll come back into the center again. And we're going to take the block and just place that between the thighs. Little squeeze there. So we want to have the heels the same distance apart as we think the center of the knees are. So not the hip distance apart that we're used to working with, a little closer. And then we'll take the hands down by the side of the body, palms face down. Just wiggle the shoulders underneath a little bit. And Draw the belly down towards the spine, and as the lower back connects, we take a breath, curl the tailbone away from the floor, and let the hips follow up towards the sky. And take a breath there. Roll the spine gently down the floor. Exhale, we'll float back up again. Breath at the top as you press down through the arms and the legs evenly. Easing ourselves back down. On the exhale. And take 3 more of those. Draw the belly in, curl the tailbone away, and rise. So it looks like it's one long movement, but it's just a succession of integrated triggers. Rolling gently back down. And we'll take 1 more. Ease the spine down again. Now move the block to the back of the head. Take the arms out wide. Allow the feet to move out as wide as the mat, and take the legs over to the left. So just scissoring gently. And we'll lift the knees back up. And roll them gently over to the other side. Coming back into the center again. Walking the feet in, and then bring the knees in towards your body. We're just going to take the hands on top of the kneecaps and allow some big circles to happen with the knees. So exhaling the knees in towards the body down the center line, inhaling the knees out wide and forwards, letting the tailbone tuck away a little bit. And then as you draw it back in, you just squeeze the abdominals down a little bit and help lift the tailbone off the floor with your abdominals rather than pulling on the arms. So just a little tailbone lift, a small abdominal crunch, but you can make that quite strong. The lift isn't big, but you can decide whether you want to be on the verge of compressing all the air out and almost holding the breath, or whether you take it more gently. We'll reverse that up. So trying to exhale away down the center line. And we'll draw the knees back together. I'm going to take the hands around the right shin. Let the left foot come to the floor and slide that foot out down to the bottom of the mat. Once the leg is lengthened out and the foot is flexed and toes to the sky, go start to draw the right knee in towards the armpit. Okay, and if you wish, flex both feet. And we'll slowly bring the knees back in towards the body and shift over. Let the right foot comes to the floor close to the bottom and then slide that heel out down what we believe to be the center line of the mat. Toes pointing to the sky, so any twisting the leg out to the side, we internally rotate. And then start to draw that left knee towards the armpit. Getting your choice about whether you want to flex both feet, just takes it up a notch, engages the muscles in the legs a little bit more fully. And then draw the feet back in. I'm going to come into happy baby. So I'm going to slide the knees out wide, fingers down the shin. I like to lift the head to see where I'm placing the hands, and then drop the head gently back. So when you do it that way, you need to be careful that you do remember to lengthen the neck back out again. It's very easy to bring the head down to the floor and arch the neck a little. When you're ready, you're going to bring the soles of the feet towards the sky and draw the tailbone down towards the floor. Now slowly release the feet down to the ground again. And as they come to the floor, we'll lengthen both legs out down the center line of the mat, keeping the legs together. Which will feel quite a big release in those hip flexors. We'll take the arms out wide, crucifix style, roll the shoulders underneath. And then effectively, we're going to do tree pose lying down on the ground, which I think, well, it's supposed to be a balancing pose, but we're just going to use it to work on the hips in a unilateral way. So we're going to slide the right heel into the shin. So the sole of the foot, just the side of the leg, and knee out to the side, and then slowly bring the foot in past the knee, take it as high as we can, keeping the knee out to the side. So trying to keep the hips square to the ground, which means you might notice how far your knee is off the ground. We're still going to lengthen out through the long leg, have the foot flexed and the toes pointing to the sky. Now your foot might not have come in as close to the groin as it would do as if you were using the hands to lift it in, but that's fine because we're just really working on the extension of the hip out to the side. Surprisingly strong with all that weight. When you're in tree pose, you don't notice quite so much. Gravity's working on the joint and the muscles in a different way. Slide the foot back down the length of the leg, which means you'll rotate the hip very slowly back into position. So both feet pointing towards the sky, And then we'll start to bring the opposite heel in, slide that sole of the foot along, and gently bring that past the knee, bringing it as close as we can, and letting that knee hang out to the side. This is a great way of getting instant cramp into your hip. Oh dear, it's tricky to breathe through. And then we'll slide the leg back out again. And we're just trying to keep the sole of the foot touching the side of the leg. And then we'll slowly bring the feet out to the corner edges of the mat, ready for Shavasana, letting the toes hang out to the side. And we'll bring the hands a little closer into the side of the body. Eyes closed. And then we just let ourselves melt onto the mat. And we'll start to wriggle the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, taking a deeper breath in. Use the energy to stretch out. Slide the heels along the ground towards you. Draw the knees into the body for that little hug. On the exhale, roll onto your right side. Take a breath on the ground. And then exhale to lift back up. Just rolling yourself gently into a seated posture. You can bring the hands in towards the heart as we take the breath in. A simple bow to the floor, drawing the belly in, chin to chest. As we lift the head back up, open the eyes. Namaste. Enjoy the snowy weather. Thanks for joining me.